Hey there, this is Noah Nelson, and this is my Project 7, the reflection video about COVID-19 pandemic from January 2020 to now, and just my thoughts about that. So, when the pandemic started, actually before it started, it was a little weird because as cases were coming in to the United States, oh, this one has it in New York City, or this one has it in Florida, and various places. No one really knew what to think of it. Just, oh, this virus is going around and that, and then it started spreading globally and globally all over the world. And then when it started coming into the U.S., where Chicago got cases and different places like that, it just wow. Well, flash forward to March 2020, a few weeks into March, my last event, or one of my last events, was our Newman Hall formal on Saturday, March 7th. And then come the next day, Sunday, March 8th, Illinois basketball played Iowa and ended up defeating them, and we didn't know would be their last game of that season. And so that was kind of cool, to be at the very last game of that season. However, it was heartbreaking because they went to the Big Ten tournament and ended up getting having to go home. So that was a little devastating. However, during that whole week, everybody was talking, "Oh my gosh, Purdue is going home for spring break and not coming back. And there's Michigan State, there's Michigan, there's Iowa, there's Penn State, and all these types of schools." And everybody was wondering, what's going to happen to Illinois. So that was the talk of the table every day the week of March 9th, that Monday. And I remember just talking to friends about it, like, hey guys, what's going to happen? Is this going to be our last, go around where we're all going to be together for a while? Like, nobody knows what's going to happen. And so when it did finally happen, I think the school announced it like Wednesday, March 11th, that we were going to go home for spring break and we were not going to come back at all after spring break. And we were going to go all remote classes, what we've been doing for the last year and a half now, and no one really knew what to think about it. So I remember Thursday, March 12th, I went out with my Daily Illini friends, and we went to a bar and we were at different apartments just partying and stuff, and that was probably my last big get-together with more than 50 people, nobody wearing a mask because nobody did so back then. And that was weird because we were all together and just hanging out, and no one really knew what to think. Like, oh, we'll be back after spring break, and, that we're not going to be home long. Well, we did. So come March 13th, that Friday, we all went home, and that was the last time I was to see a lot of my friends until we came back to school in August. And so I do remember March 13th, I came home from school, and I went on a walk with a buddy back home, and we were walking around our park, and it felt like being inside of a Stephen King movie or novel, where it just had this eerie feeling, like nobody was out and about. Just, it just was weird. It was bizarre that, nobody was really doing anything, and everybody was just scared to death. And I remember we went into Walmart still not wearing a mask because there was no mandate and no one thought better of it. And all of the rows of toilet paper were gone, and paper towels, and baby wipes, and milk, and meat, and all kinds of stuff was just wiped off the shelves. And Walmart looked like it was going out of business. It really did. Just everything was just wiped off the shelves, and we were like, this is so weird. Like, there's no way they're going to close a Walmart down, but that's what it looked like. And so that weekend kind of bled into the following week of spring break, where I really didn't do much. More cases started coming into the United States, and we were just, like, hey, what's going to happen? And then, the state released a mandate to wear masks. So yeah, my family and I, we went to the grocery store when we did, just the essential places, wore a mask, and it was weird at first, but it was kind of neat because everybody was doing it, so we didn't really feel left out or anything. There were others that didn't do it. They didn't catch on quite yet, and some still haven't caught on quite yet, but That's okay. Either way, we tried to really minimize where we went and what we did, and we just kind of hung out at home. We played lots of board games, caught up on a lot of TV, a lot of movies. I remember watching just, like Everybody Loves Raymond and The King of Queens and that '70s show and Two and a Half Men, just all kinds of TV shows. And like, my dad got me into old Western movies, old Godfather movies. My mom got me into Hallmark mysteries and Hallmark romances and stuff. So we were watching all kinds of TV movies all the time just because there was nothing else to do. And we were playing games, and I was trying to like FaceTime different friends and keep in contact with them, texting them, and this and that. And so with social media and all that. So yeah, it was just weird. Like you just couldn't be around people at all. And so that the March, after spring break there in March, we came back Monday, March 16th, and it was strange because it was all online. I was at home, and I remember I told my mom, like, we got to go to Walmart and get a little foldable desk because I needed one in my room because I just I didn't have one before and I need it now. So we got a foldable desk, and that's what I used for the last 8 weeks of the semester. It was weird. I was camped out in my room all day, and I think I only came out for lunch and dinner. That was just strange. And then everybody's in this little box, trying to teach class and, do these different things, professors and classmates. And it was weird. And you had to learn Zoom, and you had to learn, just how to interact with one another, not or virtually and not in person. So that was strange, but the weeks went on, and I ended up doing well in all of my classes, which was good. Ended the semester very well. And then come summer, normally, my parents and I take a summer vacation, and we just didn't. I guess our summer vacation was we went on little drives, different small towns and different things. Never really got out of the car, and if we did, it was like, to walk around the park or, just something, or to get out to get gas or something like that. We just, we drove to different places, but we rarely got out of the car because, you didn't know what was going to happen with COVID. And, we just didn't want to be around people and didn't want to spread it or, be infected. So those were our vacations. Those turned into every weekend. We were driving somewhere new, seeing something different, roadside America, because instead, we go to places like Nashville or Indianapolis or Washington, D.C. or different things like that, and, doing the big sites, that everybody knows, but we went to these small towns instead and did roadside America sites, like giant statues, and we saw like a 2-story outhouse and, a hippie memorial, and we just saw little things that you just kind of miss driving along the road. But when you can't really go to a big city, you got to go and try the next best thing. So that's what we did, and we ended up enjoying it. We learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot about the places we went to. Yeah, and it wasn't the ideal family vacation, but we went, and it ended up like that. Well, and then come school year, I knew it was going to be different. So we all had to wear a mask around school, outside, and in the buildings and different things. And I remember having all online classes except for one, and that ended up being a journalism class, which I loved because I got to go into the actual building and be with actual people. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, no, and we started getting tested every 2-3 times a week, and started using our the Illinois Safer app to be granted access into buildings, and that was a little weird getting used to, because there were some days where I would test negative, and then this system would mess up and I still wouldn't be able to get into a building, so I'd have to do Zoom for a class, or I couldn't get into a building to study. So that was a little frustrating and some getting used to, but we made it work somehow and finished that semester strong. And come this spring semester, it's still using the Safer app and getting tested 2-3 times a week. And But I do get to hang out with my friends on the quad. We're all wearing masks. We're all walking wherever we go wearing masks, and just trying to be safe and that. And I think with the no indoor dining for a lot of restaurants on Green, we ate a lot of food and had a lot of picnics on the quad. So which was nice because you're outside and you're enjoying one another and a little change of pace, but there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, and then the pandemic really just as more cases started coming in, then vaccinations and that. But school wise, it just it took some getting used to, and it's still getting taking some getting used to. But we're getting a hold of it, and hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I have all in person classes come this fall 2021, so I'm excited about that, and we get to go back to football games and do actual normal human events. So it's great. We're still gonna use protocols, COVID protocols, and that. But yeah, I'm excited to really get back into gear, and it's weird to me that this has been a year and a half, but it has. And yeah, who would have thought we'd live through a global pandemic? But during this time, I really learned a lot about myself, and I learned how to do remote schooling. I learned that this is not the end of the world. It's just one of those obstacles we have to get through together because we all in this together, and that at the end of the day, we just got to stick with each other and be kind to one another and help each other out because we really are all in this together, and we got to get through this together. So and that is my reflection on the COVID-19 pandemic for Project 7 for Journalism 215. Thank you for listening, and we will see you all soon. Bye.